And then each of those two halves being split by a hallway.
Yeah.
And then all the space on either side, it's kind of
Good evening, it's 5 o'clock. This time I'll call the work session of the Perry City Council for December the 3rd, 2018. To order, please. We have a quorum. Item 3 on our agenda this evening is items for review and discussion. If you will allow me, we have an added agenda item that I would like to move up in the agenda. We have Ms. Susan Sharp, who would like to talk with us about a concept that she would like to present to the council. Ms. Sharp?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. You need to know who I'm looking at.
This
way?
group, this group.
All right. My name is Susan Sharp, and I want to let you know who I am and what I'm interested in doing here in this beautiful town of Perry. I'm a teacher of mathematics from high school level and college level from a long time ago, and I got married and moved around to 10 different states, and you could say 13 if you count before I got married. So I've seen quite a few towns, and I grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is a golfing community out there in the west with some dirt and cactus. I see Perry just like that. I really do. I have with me Rick, right over here, please, raise your hand. Rick is a mechanic, and he's interested in working with me and selling some scooters. And we'll get to those in just a minute on what else. Ricky is interested in selling and doing some marketing. And I see some places here in Perry that I think would be great for selling. I see this town up and coming. I see this newspaper, the Sun News, with Perry on the page. I see Perry golf courses, and I see this brand new town of Perry just flourishing with construction, with new businesses, and I want to be in there. Right? And what I have is some paperwork that I was going to show you so you know what I'm trying to sell and the help that I may need for it. Actually, could you just take some of the last one? Okay, all this is a scooter. Does anybody want one? That's what they are, scooters. And the cool thing about the scooter is that I just went 75 miles per gallon on my scooter. And I didn't even have to license it. I don't have a license. I'm not allowed to drive. I'm an old lady who's sitting at home and not allowed to drive. But with this little vehicle, I can. And furthermore, I can sell it. And if you look at some of the specifics on it, did everybody get one? If you look at the specifics of it, it's a 4-stroke 49cc, which goes ahead and it puts it in a different caliber of motor and vehicle. So it's not like an auto, it's like a bicycle. And also, it's cheap. It's like, I don't know how much it is for me to buy it yet because they won't let me sell them until I get a place of business. But I bought mine for $850, and that was from an individual. They're selling online for about $1,200 to $1,500, and this is the bottom of the line. So you can get scooters. They're not called mopeds, scooters that can actually have more features on them than this. This is disc front brakes, drum rear brakes. It's got a belt drive. The miles per gallon is rated on this is 100 miles per gallon. That's a lot of miles per gallon. I noticed that you have an old Sinclair gas station here that's historical. And I was looking for places, I believe it's Ashley Hardy. Pardon? Ashley, oh, was helping me look around, and she happened to show me that building, that dump, and it's got a hole right in the middle of it, and it's the old Sinclair gas station. And I just happened to notice that Sinclair, up there in Wyoming, I believe it was, is trying to go ahead and remodel their gas stations. Did you hear about that? Sinclair wants to come back out into the U.S., and they want to go ahead and renovate their gas stations and get them back in ship shape for selling gas, which is what I want to do. But I need a place to go ahead and have my mechanic put the two pieces of the bike together, and whatever nuts and bolts they need, put those bikes together, and then me sell them. That this is your Sinclair's the dinosaur. And when I see this town of Perry, and I see the golf course, I see the Sinclair historical gas station, and I see there's a reason to come to Perry. And I'm not kidding when I tell you, I grew up in Scottsdale, and that's how Scottsdale started. It was a golf course town, and they put a beautiful restaurant overlooking the golf course where you had a team hostess and you had a reservation to eat dinner. And all of a sudden, bam, everybody wanted to go golfing at Scottsdale, Arizona. And Perry is nothing new. We've got the Air Force, we've got a nice little town of Warner Robins, and I'm here in Warner Robins. Over there in Warner Robins, I think it's coming from Macon, and I don't know. And so it's kind of dragging down there to Warner Robin, and I see Warner Robin coming down here to Perry, and more maybe home building and such. I don't know the prices are a lot than that, and I could know that. Oh, the office over for you too. It's for Sinclair. Do you want that? Yeah. Well, all it does is tell about how Sinclair wants to go ahead and re-establish their gas stations, and get reading on that. And so what I want to do with this town is simply sell those and introduce myself. Susan, Rick, and Nikki. That's all I want to do. I need to get business licenses. I need to have Wolf Industries directly deal with me. And in order for them to do that, I have to have a place of business. And I wanted to make sure this town knows what I'm doing, and I want to have your approval that you want this in your community too, because if you don't want a bunch of, it's like you're having an automobile dealership down Houston Lake Road. It's kind of an eyesore. You guys have such a pretty little downtown district. I don't want to ruin the effect. Or maybe start out there and then transfer to a different location shortly. But at least this is a bright color. When you tell somebody it's 75 miles per gallon or even 100 miles per gallon, everybody's eyes just light up. I've already sold 5, and I haven't been able to sell them because I don't have any place of business yet. So that's all I wanted to do. Thank you.
What questions does the council have? We will take that under advisement and get back with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming and sharing that with us.
All right. We'll just wait and see this.
Item 3A is for the office of the city manager, Mr. Gilmore.
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem and council members, first item we have there is to review construction management services proposal. You may remember that we have a series of parks. We have gone out on different proposals for them. The costs have been considerably higher than what we originally had budgeted. So one possible avenue that might save us some money would have to employ a construction management services firm. You authorized us to go out and seek proposals. We have 2 vendors responded. You have copies of their proposal and representatives from each of the firms out here to make a presentation to you all.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. As all of you know, this is an open meeting, but we've had a request as a personal courtesy or professional courtesy, if both of the parties would agree that when one party was making their proposal, the other party would not be in the room. Mr. Waters, is that acceptable if both parties agree?
Both parties agree on
So I take it that, but they're on, one's on the bride side, one's on the groom side. And they're all shaking their heads, and so,
It would be abnormal for us to do it in the same room.
okay, that's fine. We had that request, but like I said, all of our meetings are open to the public, and we want to make sure that we're not violating any of the open meeting rules and regulations that we conduct this meeting under. So,
Right, so long as, if I may, Mr. President, as long as both parties know you have the right to stay in, certainly. If you amongst yourselves wish to agree to separate, that's certainly. You do have the right to enter.
Mr. Smith, is there an order that where they had selected that they wanted to go in, or would you?
There was no specific order, no, sir.
So would the Sunbelt people like to go first for their presentation? Okay. That'll be fine. But we can't close the door.
That's just fine. Pass those out.
We are going to have our presentation up on the board, but for you to see, it might be a little easier on some of the pages to be able to
They'll give you a hard copy as well, so.
make notes.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Kapp, I'm president of Sunbelt Builders. I just want to say thank you all for having us down, for having us do a presentation for you. Just for the record, years ago, my wife forbid me from having any two-wheeled vehicles, so a scooter is not in my future. So we'll go from there. But no, thank you all for having us. We'll tell you a little bit about Sunbelt Builders and talk about your parks project and what we think we can add to the mix to maybe help you all get within budget and get your parks built or get them prioritized on which parks you could take down at what times. So just a little bit on Sunbelt Builders. We've been around the Southeast and more importantly around the state of Georgia for 36 years. We do a lot of CM, GC work. We're a mid-tier design build firm. So when you think about construction companies, commercial construction companies, we're not your Brassfield and Gorey that's doing $650 million a year or your choke construction, but we're doing jobs anywhere from $250,000 to $6.5, $8 million. So in that range, so we do a lot of design build work, a lot of negotiated work, and CM at risk. Dedicated staff of field and office personnel. At the end of our jobs and during our jobs, we can manage jobs very well. We can do a lot from the office, but at the end of the day, the end user really sees our field personnel and more importantly, our commercial construction superintendents. These are the people in the field that get to know the customer best, and they are really, they're on the job every day, and they're managing field personnel, material suppliers, and they're the ones that you really get to know best. So if we are fortunate to have a lot of repeat clients, and those repeat clients always say, hey, can we have a David Nobles or Jeff Nobles Jeff Nelson back on our projects. And so when we say past clients are our best advertising, there's no doubt about it. During the recession, depression, we got through it. I'm not going to say with glowing colors, but we went through it very well because we had such a good backlog of work with past customers. So that really helped in that process. Pre-construction.
So,
This is Mike McCrory.
I'm Mike McCrory, I'm a project manager and estimator for Sunbelt Builders. I've been with the company a little over 20 years.
Garnet Long.
Garnet Long, senior estimator. So I don't know how much y'all know about CM at risk. Part of my job is kind of educate as we kind of go through this, but CM at risk, pretty much we're working directly for you as your representative to ensure the budget and the project are both done in time, on budget, and with quality that you would want. So that starts at pre-construction. Pre-construction is anything that's happening prior to mobilization on the job site. Let me set this down, so what do we do that's different than the next guy in pre-construction is we think we do a better job of vetting our vendors or our subcontractors, our suppliers, and making sure not only are they giving us the best quality products, but that they can actually perform your job that you need in the timeline that you need it. Because in today's world, since the downturn, everybody says they're really, really busy, and what they really are at half staff. So therefore, the amount of work they have makes them feel really, really busy, so they cannot man the jobs like they could, say, 6 years ago. So during pre-construction, we'll be doing all that, and then Garnet, you want to touch, I think, yeah, before I swap on this about how you go through the estimates in the pre-construction phase.
Well, we understand that you have already hired architects for the jobs, 2 different firms, and we would begin with taking your drawings and doing estimates to come up with our budget that we want and try to make sure that stays within the numbers that you have given us for each project. And work together with you to get those projects back into budget if they are above what you have planned to spend at this time. And there are different ways of doing that as far as being, whether it just be a different product, or we can even go to the extent of taking parts of the job and saving those parts till later to,
Just ensure that the total budget is always kept in mind, in that way that we can always add some of those back in at the end. 'Cause you always want to keep, no matter the job, you want to have some contingency in a construction project as things happen. So a lot of times, like Garnet was saying, we want to pinpoint items we can kind of hold back and still add in at the end. So our pre-construction is not only the vendors, it's not only the estimate, but it's also, she mentioned the value engineering. How can we still get what you have in your mind's eye for the dollars that you're gonna be allowed to spend? And I think what separates Sunbelt and a lot of other firms is that we are, at heart, we're a true design build contractor. That means we actually, most of our projects are hiring the engineers, the architects, the mechanical engineers, and we're giving our wealth of experience as to what these drawings could do, because there's a lot of different ways to build a building. And there's a lot of different materials and methods, and as you change those, that price per square foot can drastically change. And we think our years of design build is what leads best at seeing at risk during pre-construction. We'll try and speed this up, because I know y'all got a ways to go. Get back up. Construction management, then once all this pre-construction happens and there's been a budget that's agreed on and y'all said, hey, let's move forward, and we actually get all the subcontracts done and all that fun stuff, when we get on site, our role as a construction manager, again, is budget control, safety, daily means and methods, 3 weeks, scheduled recovery, because we have rain events like we've had recently, that will throw a schedule. Subcontractor management, continuing to make sure they're getting manpower to the site. Are they ordering their long lead items so that we don't have a delay on the job site because the HVAC units aren't here or the water feature pump's not here? Anything for the reflection pools, all of a sudden that all those pumps are not here, then that can create a delay. And of course, watching the construction schedule. Anything on construction management standpoint? All right, I'm gonna run through this one really quick. This is our meeting minutes, OAC, owner, architect, contractor. So anytime we meet, we're gonna keep all our meeting notes in the same format so you know exactly what's going on. Really the only reason for this, the best parts about this is RFIs, but they're not really tracked that we feel like in a lot of projects, request for information, where it is, let's say you as the owner tell me I wanna move a door 4 feet. And I say, okay, you're the owner, I'm gonna move the door 4 feet. Well, before I do that, I'm gonna file an RFI, request for information to the architect of record, so that the fire marshal doesn't go, you can't move that door 4 feet. Then we've already done it for you. It's not that I don't want to move the door, but these codes have to be checked, so I'm gonna nod my head and say, yes, sir, I'm gonna move the door, and then I'm gonna defer to the design professional, and it'll all be documented. So, unfortunately, we have an error down the road, somebody gets hurt, we don't want anybody liable because the door was moved and the code wasn't checked. So that's what the RFI.
So you would have OAC, you would have OAC notes on all 4 projects, and then we'd have a master OAC on the total project for the magnitude of everything that we're doing. So you'll be able to track each individual job and then look at a master schedule to see where the overall parks projects are during that time, any given month.
Everything else is just pretty standard meeting notes about scheduling, time extensions. We have a place called action items. It's where anything can come up and it stays tracked on these notes until it's resolved, whether it be a groundbreaking, ribbon cutting, whatever, it can land on this and be tracked until then. And probably the best part at the end is the items needed by owner. That way, if there's ever anything we needed from city council, it would be on there, and you would know it. And it wouldn't be, hey, you didn't tell me. It'll be on here every set of meeting notes. This is one thing we didn't want our friends to see, is this is something that Steve implemented 3 or 4 years ago that's different than most everybody's doing. Because of the manpower issues, our superintendents fill out a 3-week look ahead every Friday, which lays out day by day what's going on your job site. Then that is sent to everybody in the project that has a subcontract, a material contract, so that we are trying to get the people to your job site. Because in construction, time is the biggest money spent. If we can reduce how long we're on the job site, you're gonna be able to hit the budget every time. This was just a screenshot of an overall construction management schedule. In y'all's particular case, it would have all 4 projects on there, so you'd be able to track the grand scheme of the scheduling throughout the project. Quality control, Steve, I'll turn that over to you.
Yeah, quality control for us, one, you've got the superintendent on site, but it is these weekly meetings that we actually have with our vendors, with all material suppliers on site, because at the end of any project, when it's a parks project or building, it's never 1 to 3 items that define quality. It really starts when we crack dirt, and we're grading to the finished job, when we're getting the CO. So quality control, these pre-installation meetings, weekly on-site quality control, I just mentioned third-party testing, coordination review throughout the project. So it's a multitude of items that when somebody comes up to a site, a park, whether it's a building, people say, hey, that really looks great. Well, it's not just one item, it's not a water feature, it's a number of things that will go into this, into quality at the end of the day.
One thing I'd probably mention is on the third-party testing. A lot of times, the code says you guys are supposed to hire the third-party testing company. A lot of times, the documents end up making us hire them. But most of the time, the owner hires the third-party inspector. And the biggest thing I think Sunbelt's implemented is a pre-install meeting with your third-party inspector to tell them, this is how many times we see you coming out. Has the estimate that's been provided to city council include that many trips? Because it is one thing in construction, it's not a huge dollar amount, it's something that runs over most projects, because they're just trying to get the job, and then they don't know what builder's coming, are we gonna pour it in 3 pours or 1 pour? And that will affect the cost. We'll talk a little bit about Mike Collins.
Yeah, well, I have a full-time safety director, Mike Collins, makes job visits. We have monthly safety meetings at our office where all the supers, all the field come in there. And so safety is something we take very seriously. From subs and our subcontracts to them, to our superintendents, to our safety director being on site, it's it's paramount. I would rather send the entire field home for the day than be in an unsafe situation. So that's something that really trumps everything we're going to talk about today is safety. That, at the end of the day, we want everybody going home safe. What we do is inherently dangerous. There's a lot of machinery out there. And so what we have is these on-site safety meetings as well, where we go through 10 different items about hazards of the day, what's the closest hospital, who's the competent person on site, and we go through those on site.
Like Steve said, the biggest thing is if something happens, Steve giving us all the authority to send somebody home. Because if you tell a guy 7 times to pick up his hard hat, he's probably not gonna wear it the 8th time. When you send him home, he tells his boss he made no production for the day, he'll probably wear the hard hat the next day. Darnell, you wanna talk a little bit about their parks? We have visited all the sites, twice now. We don't know as much as y'all know about your parks, so we're just gonna guess a little bit, but obviously at Heritage, I think the budget was around 1.5. Amphitheater, parking access, we did ride out on that site again today, and it's a beautiful site. Doesn't look like there's any structures that we could see on this.
Possibly at the amphitheater, a small one. I did a lot of searching, trying to find information on your parks, and found a little bit. This is the largest park, and it did mention just the amphitheater and the parking access. I don't know if the rest of this will be built in this phase, or if this is gonna be a phased project.
And one thing I'll mention on construction management is that's management too. We talk about VE. VE's I really don't like the term because people get in mind taking tons out of AC or doing things that are really, just take a lot of quality out of a project. But somewhere like this, when you've got 4 different park projects, yes, we've got different design professionals, but there's a lot that can be done in design to save a lot of dollars. So we spend, I'm gonna say 60 to 70% of our time in the office working with civil engineering, land planning, because traditionally those are some of your biggest costs. That division for site work is, and there's a lot of opportunities when you have 4 parks to figure out some ways to save money or to use same vendors, buying power, and deliver what you all want. So is it always work? No, but with this multitude of projects, even though some are smaller, you've got a lot of opportunities there to save some big dollars.
The other opportunity with 4 sites is to overlap construction timelines. The more there overlap, the more money you're gonna save. Arbor Calhoun, I guess we're assuming the 2 additional tennis parks will be, for this purposes, below the existing. I think there's some lighting, some resurfacing. That was around a $300,000 budget, if I remember correctly. For the bullet points we've got up there and what you're talking about doing, that budget sounded just fine to us. Just recently, Bryce Son, which one is this? This is
Legacy.
Okay, so that's the reflection pool, grading and landscaping. Not really sure what the magnitude of this project is, but it's got a budget of 1.3 million, I wanna say. So hard to tell how that budget looks, not knowing what all's in there. But definitely visited the site. And then there's Crossroads. We're really confused on this one a little bit as to the location of this.
We know it's on the cell phone tour.
Which is great. We did a couple of them today. So I'm assuming it's the White House. Is that where this improvement is taking place?
No, it's going down the highway all the way back to the back of the church.
Oh, okay.
There are 3 triangles in there that each one of the triangles are gonna be done.
Oh, okay.
It's there on Main Street and Third, I think.
We did not have access to that information, so we didn't know. Yeah.
Any questions? Any questions of Sunbelt, because it is a confusing process at times.
And one thing I want to lead on before the questions is the idea of where the value in a construction manager comes in is what I touched on just before. It's helping prioritize the 4 parks. If you can't do all 4 parks, what are the priorities out of those? And then setting up a cost module so you can see real dollars. If we're, like Mike said, if we're overlapping construction timelines, if we're buying more construction, or making the contract bigger and getting cost savings, laying those out on spreadsheets so that you can make a more educated decision based on those numbers. So it may be a phased project where 2 of the projects you're gonna take down now and 2 you're gonna do later. So it may be that, Heritage Park is gonna be the first park that we take down, and you've got monies for one other park, and then we set up the other two parks on a phased plan. Questions?
Where are you located?
We're in Covington, Georgia, and we really work all over the state. We've just been down in Americas.
And that was the next question.
Yeah.
What are some projects we might know something about that you?
If I would direct you first to our website at sunbeltbuilders.com, and that will give you a gallery there of a lot of jobs that we've done. So in the last, let's say 10 months, 12 months, we've been in Americus, Georgia. We're getting ready to start a project in Waycross, Georgia, the second quarter of next year. The majority of our jobs are within 2 hours of Covington. We'd like to be able to get to our jobs, get up in the morning. If we need to put our hands on the jobs, we can be there. And these are an hour and 20 minutes from our home office.
Additional questions?
This may be an info you provided, if it is, I apologize, but are there any other examples of park projects you've done you might have?
Yeah, hopefully they're in there.
They are.
But
Yeah.
I'm sure they are.
probably the most recent we just finished is Wills Park in Alpharetta. We took a old pool house, tore the middle out of it for some reason. We weren't the designer. Built a 2-story middle back into the building, and tore out this huge pool, put in 2 new pools so that they could have a kid's pool and a lap pool. It was
6.5 million.
6.5 million.
And then right before that, we did a 30-acre park for Henry County that was Fairview Park.
Yeah, kind of similar laid out to your
Yeah.
Heritage. It had a community building on one end, a couple of like old timber frame pavilions.
Water
on a couple of
features,
ends.
football fields, multi-purpose fields, walking track, detention pond facility. That was a big park
The
job.
last one we did a CM at risk on was Denny Dobbs Park in Newton County, basketball courts, baseball field. I can't remember, they had the interactive electronic stuff around the path, around the walking track. I can't
Done
remember.
work for Metropolitan YMCA of Atlanta.
Boys and
Did
Girls
some park
Club.
shops for them, soccer fields, those type.
You driving scooters?
I can't ride a scooter. Don't get me in trouble.
It's your kids.
Yeah, that's
Your
right.
kids and your wife. And grandma.
What other questions do you have at this point in time? Mr. Gilmore, any questions? Mr. Smith, any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. We
Okay.
appreciate your time.
Yep, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you for the vision.
Do we have a remote? Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you with us this evening.
All right.
And the floor is yours.
Hey, good evening. My name's Kurt Eckman. I'm with Paris Construction, obviously. We're excited to be here, but not only that, we're more excited to be able to partner with the city of Perry on another exciting project. So a little bit about me real quick. I graduated Perry High here, lived my whole adult life here. I'm ingrained in the community. I'm excited about these park projects that's on board for construction. What we're gonna do tonight, turn the agenda.
I'm trying to.
I don't think I'm doing this right.
Anyway, over the past several years, we've completed several projects for the city of Perry, and very successful projects. And we get to it, we got the wastewater treatment plant, which at that time I was a superintendent for Parish, and it was a very successful project for the city and the water treatment plant. The other project was the fire department's out on House and Lake Road. state-of-the-art fire department. Third project was the animal control facility, which I was a senior project manager with them. And that was a project that was duly needed for this community. I mean, the animal control had suffered for many years, and now they're in a really nice facility. For our agenda tonight, we're gonna do team introductions, park project planning, construction approach, and then why Parish. My name is Kurt Eggman. I'm the project director with Parish Construction. I've got 35 years in the industry. Like I said, I've completed successfully multiple projects with the city of Perry, and I'm excited about working with the city of Perry again. These 4 projects are green space, landscape, architectural projects, so that lends to the community and what you guys are trying to get accomplished here in the community.
I'm Clay Bryan with Parish Construction Group. I'll be your project manager on these 4 parks. Slide to the next slide. I'll get into what we've been doing as a team to go through these things. The first one will be Heritage Park, Phase 1. Just a project at a glance. Understanding the project, we as a team have been sitting down and going through the documents and trying to figure out exactly what the city of Perry wanted, digging through and what we've come up with, you know, and what y'all designed. You have extensive landscaping going in, an amphitheater, bioswales to divert the water over here at Heritage, and asphalt paving. So you're going to enter off of the main road on 341, come through, and then you'll have extensive parking there to get to the parks. If you slide on to the next slide for me, please. Legacy Park Phase 1, this project at a glance. You have landscaping as well at Legacy, brick pavers coming in off of the main road here, and a reflection pool. Here's your existing building that's planned to stay. It's Crossroads Park Phase 1. Here again, downtown, you have a 4-section park. Understanding the project, we have landscaping. You have brick pathways going in. You have a central fountain. And you have bioswales as well to divert the water under the existing drives where the traffic's so heavy. Barbara Calhoun Park. This one's a little different for us. I mean, you have existing park with existing courts that are being used, existing bike trails, and existing archery range. Here we have new courts going in, new tennis court fencing, the Musco sports lighting, and sidewalks going in.
All right, so I'm Charlie Griffiths, Senior Vice President Parish. Many of you may, I know a lot of folks here in the room, and that's one of the things that is most exciting for me in construction is being able to work in my hometown. Our reputation is everything, and we guard it jealously, and we're excited about another chance to present. So we kind of toured through what the scope is, big picture. Probably drawings y'all seen before. Lee reflected on the fact that this has been a process that's been ongoing for a while. And so for the next steps in construction management, you got a CMRFP that you responded to. So big picture, y'all got designs that have been put together. So what do we do now? What's the next step? First and foremost, we're going to put together a detailed budget. We'll have it broken out by each park, and we'll ensure prior to bidding to subcontractors that this job is in budget. We've got $3.4 million and change. I've got the exact numbers if we want to go through it. But our goal is to sign a guaranteed maximum price with a guaranteed delivery date. And that would be within y'all's budget. So we're going to work quickly to put together a detailed budget by December 20th. So we would come to y'all prior to Christmas, whoever our core team is. If we have an owner's representative that we work with or come back before council, we look forward to understanding what y'all's processes and procedures are. So we'll know before Christmas, yes, in fact, we can deliver this on budget prior to going out to bidding to subcontractors. Project bidding, January 1st through February 7th. We plan to bid this job on Thursday, February 7th to subcontractors. So what does that mean? We're going to break the project up into a number of scopes of work: plumbing, electrical, site, landscaping. We're going to go get at least three subcontractors to bid each one of those packages. So we'll come back to you with hundreds of bids, and we do it in an open forum at our office. where everybody, all subcontractors can come here at Red Loud. Y'all are welcome to come. We have nothing to hide. When y'all engage us as a construction manager, we work for you. We don't work for subcontractors. We sign our agreement. We know what our arrangement is, and we go to bat for you each and every day that we're working on this project. So we do it in an open forum and ensure that our subs know that they're competing on level playing field, and y'all get to hear all the numbers read aloud. Trust but verify. That's a big part of a partnership. So that's one thing that we really pride ourselves on, is an open process to ensure that our customers know that we're fighting for them and not for ourselves. A guaranteed maximum price approval. I noticed where February 20th, y'all have a council meeting. And I would assume that we would have to bring this back in front of council saying we have 3.49 million. We're under budget. Let's be excited and positive. We're gonna be under budget, and we're gonna bring you a guaranteed maximum price, and again, a guaranteed delivery date. So we'll sign on the bottom line saying we promise it will not go over this amount of money, and we will be finished by this date. That's part of the construction management process. We methodically go step by step. We understand scope, bid it to subcontractors, and sign an agreement. So after this February 20th approval, then construction begins.
So our construction department, so as Charlie told you, we'll be approving the GMP on the 20th. Our goal is to get started on the 28th. There's a lot of preliminary things that need to be done right off the bat as far as submittals, to get things approved, to get things ordered. But our goal is to have all 4 parks completed by the end of July, July 28th. So that's starting in February and then going through July. Most of the parks will be running simultaneously, but it's we're able to coordinate and schedule those activities as it relates to the subcontractors who are involved on the projects. The budget control, we got Clay Bryan as a project manager. We have the superintendent on the job every day. Those guys are looking at all the parts and pieces and the things that we're spending money on to control and make sure that we maintain under budget. Quality control, it's the same team. Those guys are looking at all the parts and pieces that are going in and ensuring that all the proper trees and bushes and rocks and those kind of things and the features going in are what you guys want. Safety is one of the biggest challenges on these jobs, really. And it's the separation between what we do and the public. So there's several of the parks that we have a lot of public interaction, whether it's traffic or whether it's kids on the playground. So we understand that. So, site logistics, looking at Heritage Park, we'll have complete safety and separation. You can see on the yellow lines, we're proposing putting gates on the entryway and a full laydown yard at Heritage. Heritage is the biggest site, so we want to make this home base so we can mass order all the products and materials we need and store them at this park so we can get it earlier, buy it all together, and get a better price. But we'll be able to take those products from this site and go to the other sites as needed. Also, and it's much safer to control the product as well. We'll coordinate deliveries on traffic times and also activity times as far as it relates to the park or either on Crossroads Park. We know the road that's accessing through that park is vital for Perry High School. So we know there's a lot of traffic with parents and students, and we'll just coordinate all the deliveries around those times. One of the things that we pride ourselves on, along with a lot of other things, is job site cleanliness. We know that a clean job site and a well-organized job site, when it looks good, it usually is good. Not only that, as far as progress and quality, but as far as safety. Daily communication, Clay and our superintendent will be daily communication with our liaison from the city of Perry on coordinating all the different activities within each park.
Never works when I get up here. So Kurt was touching site logistics. Legacy Park, if you notice here, in the yellow, we have the actual fence that we're proposing to put up on site. And in the blue, you'll have the direction of where we'd like to deliver and transport material throughout, and then exit the site, keep everything in a safe manner. The existing corner up here is already fenced in around the old building that's on site now. So across Barbara Calhoun Park, go back. It's a Crossroads Park here. You'll notice the same thing. What we have in yellow is actually site fencing to actually keep pedestrians, away from the construction zone. Here's a bit more of a challenge because we have crossways going through there, so you have a lot of traffic. So here, Kurt touched on it, you'll have coordination, you know, upon deliveries and trying to keep pedestrians out of the construction. Here's how we propose to keep this safe. We do have a small laydown yard on this side, you know, for transportation from the bigger side over at Heritage, over here to Crossroads on this side. Barbara Calhoun, I mentioned this earlier about the site logistics here, but we'll be coming in the existing gate up top. We'll come on down, and we're actually gonna fence in the area of the new courts. We're gonna focus on the new courts first, trying to avoid the active archery range and active bike trails. And we wanna leave the tennis courts open, the existing ones that are there. So the phasing will be, come in here, do the existing, do the new courts, take the fence down, move the fence around the existing courts and resurface the existing courts.
And it's my turn. So, I just want to express why this job's important to Parish and why I think it's important that you all hire us to be your partner on this project. It goes way back, 23 years ago, when we decided to open a company. My wife and I searched for the right place to start our business, and that ended up being Perry, Georgia. And the reason we chose Perry, Georgia over any place else was quality of life. We thought this would be the best place to raise a family and the best place to attract employees because it's the best place to raise a family. So 23 years later, we've become one of the biggest contractors in the state. We have been blessed and we've been very successful. And a big part of that is how we were welcomed in Perry when we were a two-person firm just out there scratching and clawing for every job we could get. Now we're at a point where we get to be a little more selective in the jobs that we pursue. And the reason this job is way up on our list is because what better way to appreciate what Perry's done for us and our company. Some of you won't remember this, but you actually helped us build our building out at the industrial park. The covenants didn't allow for us to have a temporary office out there, but we were able to get a waiver, and y'all let us have a temporary double-wide trailer out there for a year while we built our new office. We were very accommodating to help a new business get started. And now's our chance to give back. We've got a very successful company. We've got all the work we can say grace over. We want to be involved in this project because it's going to help the quality of life of Perry. And I would never come here and ask you for a project because we're a local contractor. But I will come here and say, I'm a local contractor that can bring the best value to this project. We've got a team that's very experienced. We know the local market. We know the subcontractors. We know how to get this project within your budget. We know how to work with your design teams on Calhoun. I know you've got two different design teams, one on Calhoun and one on the other parts. We'll navigate all that for you, tie this thing up in a bow, bring you a guaranteed maximum price, and tell you that we're going to be opening these parks by the end of June 2019. So I'm here to ask you to trust us to do this work for you. We are motivated to doing it. We're motivated to being successful, and we appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you, Jim. What questions do you have of the Perry team? The question I have is the budget numbers that they're using tonight, are those the estimated budget numbers that TSW provided to us?
No.
Are they the actual?
They're based on the bid figures.
The numbers that came in when we went out to bid for the park?
They were based on, the numbers we used were in the RFP that we responded to.
And they were reflected on those slides? Yeah, I saw that. That's the reason I want to make sure of what number we were using there, so. I guess the question I was is, do you feel like there's an opportunity to value engineer this, so that those numbers would not be there. That was one of our concerns, and that's why we're having this discussion, because the numbers came in appreciably higher than we thought they would. And I know there's a lot going on in the construction business, and, you know, cost of materials and things like that are going up.
They are, you know, so one of the things that we expect of our team internally is we build trust between team members and we tell each other the truth. So we're two different parties, but when you trust us with the knowledge of what our budget is, then we can hit our target easily. So the question of can we value engineer this up or down? Absolutely. There's plenty of parts and pieces that we can throttle the scope up and down, and depending on the target that you give us, we'll absolutely hit. You know, there's different types of lighting we can do on the tennis courts. There's different types of base that we can have under some of the paving, the ways that you do the brick pavers, some of the landscaping. We've already internally looked at a number of ways to potentially save money. Big picture though, if that 3.5 were the number, y'all are in great shape. But if it's not, then we'll work as a team with y'all when you give us that target. And, you know, our business is based on reputation. We want nothing more than for y'all to see your friends in other municipalities and say, you know what, Parish, we gave them a hard hurdle to jump over. They did it with grace and they made it easy and we had a pleasant experience. So with that being our motivator, we want nothing more than to hit the target, and we do have a lot of ideas on ways to save money if required.
Questions, Mr. Gilmore? Comments? Mr. Smith?
No, sir.
Anyone here have questions or concerns? Thank you. We really appreciate you coming in. We'll look forward to talking with you about it.
Great, thank you. Item 3A2, Ms. Gilmore, is an appointment of a hearing officer.
Yes, council members, we have an employee who is appealing an adverse action for the personnel policy. The next step on that is to have an outside hearing officer. That hearing officer is appointed by council, and the administration would recommend for your consideration Ms. Cheryl Lewis. You may remember Ms. Lewis was our municipal court judge for a short period of time. But I think you're very familiar with her and her presentation and skills and all that type of stuff, so that's why we recommend to her. I do want to point out too, if there's someone else you'd like to consider, you can, but it is required to be an attorney. Practicing.
Questions, comments, or concerns relative to the recommendation of Ms. Lewis? Yes.
Thanks for that.
Do we have concurrence to move forward with Ms. Lewis? Yes, sir. Thank you. You have concurrence.
Thank you.
Item 3A3 is the review the attendance of the Perry Area Convention and Visitors Bureau Authority, Mr. Gilmore.
Yes, council members, I provided in your packet the information for the current members of the Perry Area Convention Visitors Bureau Authority and what their attendance percentage was over the last calendar year. This has been an item that's been talked about by the Chairman Loudermilk. There seems to be, for one reason or another, some attendance problems, and wanted to bring this to your attention, number one, and then number two, see if you have any type of suggestions relative to that. I do think that it is imperative for, and I don't want to focus just on the convention visits, but for any of our boards and all that type of stuff, whoever we have as members need to be able to attend. Otherwise, they can't conduct the business, you lose continuity, you can have problems having a forum, a whole bunch of things like that. And so therefore, I think that now, In the past, what we have operated under is that unless there's some major extenuating circumstance, like a major medical, type of issue or something, we have said if you miss 3 meetings in a row, then you're off. The problem with that, if you only meet once a month, is you can wind up missing a whole bunch of meetings. The other problem you can wind up having is that someone attends 2 meetings off, or one misses 2 off. Everyone with me on that? And so you wind up having problems. So I'd like to recommend that we advise the members for the Perry Area Convention Visitors Bureau, but I also suggest for all our other boards too, like Planning Commission and the Development Authority, any of those ones, that council's expectation and everything is that you should be attending at least 60% of the scheduled meetings. And if for some reason you fall below 60%, then you'll be replaced.
Two even replacing right now. Would that take effect immediately, or give them notice and then go into effect for the next calendar year?
No, my recommendation would be, like I said, this is an example, not to pick on anybody. But if you concur with that, then that will advise all the boards that that's what's expected, starting with the new calendar year.
Or is 60% too low though?
It is.
Should it be if you don't attend 75%?
That's better.
Short illnesses.
Yeah, well, I understand that, but realistically, if you're gonna, I think part of the discussion we need to have with board members is that we're not just appointing you to be a board member by name, we're appointing you as a board member to actually do the work. And so I'm not sure that 60% is, would qualify or would be useful, if you're out 40% of the time, you're not participating. In my view.
Not putting y'all,
No, it's not.
but one of the things that I'm saying is that it needs at least to be 75%. And when we go to appoint them, if they're not interested, or they think they can't do it, we gotta select somebody who are genuine interested in being a part of the city of Perry and help produce or carry forward what we want to be done. And so if they saying that, like you said, not just a namesake, somebody that your mom used to be, or somebody else, but when they take this position, we want them to stay in their own mind that they're willing to do 75%. We understand it's commercial by, but that's something that we want them to show the compassion that they are really concerned about the city of Perry and the board that we present them on, want them to be on. That's how I feel.
Thank you. We've got 9 on the committee. We've got 5 of them that are not at 75%. And I'd rather have 4 that's 75%, and that's it, than I'd have had a big group and them not coming.
And we'll just have, the people we appoint will have to understand that they need to attend
75% of they're gone.
Oh, they're gone. Is your recommendation, Mr. Gilmore, to replace our current policy? If you miss 3 meetings,
Yes.
you're gone, but this is, so is it any time that you drop below 75%? If you drop to 74, then you're out.
You just come and check and see.
I would say 75% and review it every year in the calendar year.
Right.
That's a normal replacement time.
But what
anyway.
if somebody doesn't come during the year? I mean, if they're not showing up during the
You might
year.
approach them, but you could have a situation where for some fluke, somebody's out the first 3 meetings, but still at 75% a year.
But we would come back to you, let you know if there was that
Yeah.
pattern that's starting to develop.
I would say, like, going over what you should have said, that, I guess we can have a grace period, but like you said, it's very limited. And that's the thing that we must really emphasize, as we go forward. That's something that we got.
Or you could say, you get to the point, any given time part of the year, you've already missed 25%.
Right, so what the meeting schedule's gonna be. So it would take it would require an audit of all the committees as we go throughout the year.
And I feel that it should be a courtesy call. If y'all point me to a meeting and I feel like I'm not gonna be able to do what y'all ask me, I think they need to come in and say, well, look, I understand where y'all at. I don't think I'm gonna be able to make the meeting. And if y'all don't mind, I'd like to step down and you appoint somebody else. You know, because see, one of the things about it, we just want to keep people engaged in doing what we ask them to do.
For us to move forward, I feel like we're gonna have really strong committees. 7 people here, 8 are, you know, our department heads, that type of thing. We can't do it by ourselves. And we need active, engaged, you know, citizens that want to move our city forward. And I think we have to attend meetings to do that.
And if it's not illness, then there is not really, to me, a reason why you can't attend, because it only lasts an hour. Hour and a half is enough.
Any other questions or concerns? So what I hear, there's a recommendation from this body that attendance at our committee meetings will be, the requirement will change to 75% of the meetings or the people will be asked to step.
And if you check in from hiring, you also have the option to step in.
I would encourage everybody to do that. I try to look at our attendance and my appointees and then sit down and talk to them if they're not, you know. So I think that as long as we continue to coach them, if you think that the person is trying to do a good job, then that coaching probably is fine.
And then we also try to lead by example.
Yes,
We show up for hours.
And things like you said, then let us know if somebody will appoint it, and they slacking on it. Like, you know, give them up at Ms. King, you go talk to your appointee because they're not where you're supposed to be. And I'll be more than happy to go talk to my appointee, find out what you know.
Everybody's in consensus that 75% is gonna be the number, and we'll start on January the 1st, I take it? That is when our start date would be. All right, and I would, I would make a recommendation, if you have people on committees like this, the one we're reviewing tonight, and you see that that person is not attending, you may want to go to them and say, you know, your attendance last year was 43%, that's not going to get it if, you know, do you think that you can commit the time? Because, I mean, a lot of people have very big businesses and they really can't commit the time, and they need to, you know, we need to find somebody else that would have the time and energy to do that. Anything else on that, Mr. Gilmore? Item 3B is Department of Economic Development. 3B1 is a review of Project Tucson incentive request from Ms. Harden. Ms. Harden?
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is Project Tucson that we presented to you 2 weeks ago. The restaurant owner is considering a $1.2 million, 6,000 square foot new construction restaurant in Agricultural Village. And he asked if the city had any grants or incentives that he could utilize. Because it's not in the downtown district, he's not eligible for facade grant improvements or rural zone incentives for investment and job creation. So I put together a list of what building permit fees could look like, as well as what the city portion of the property tax annually would be in your memo for that project. And we offered to be here, and I understand doesn't need to at this time, but on behalf of the restaurant owner, he just wants to know if the city would do anything, since this is the first brewery type facility. And it's a nice new construction with 200 seats, meeting space, a stage for music, and a rooftop that overlooks that fairground. So it's a unique, one of a kind restaurant. It's not a chain facility.
What questions do you have?
What exactly would it like for us to do?
They didn't say, you get to pick. They didn't say, they just said, what does the city have? I know state law says that the city can't write a check. You know, I moved from a community where the city collected sales tax and they wrote a check for $130,000 to get an IHOP. Because they knew they'd get that back in 1.5% sales tax. We can't do this. So I just put together a list of what incentives could look like. You give him the lowest one for $20, or the fire marshal new construction plan review for $160, or you could say, let's just, I mean, it's up to you guys. It's your decision. He didn't say, I need X amount. He just said, what can the city do? Are there grants that I can participate in?
What
What
did we do?
incentives?
What did we do for the motel, hotel, one on?
Hotel's a whole different.
It's different because you guys have
It's
a,
a whole different ballgame, but I just
The
asked the
building
question, what did we
permit
do?
fees primarily.
Huh?
Utility hookups and building permit.
And how much was that, you recall?
No, I don't. What, 17?
But there again, it was based upon an incentive package that was put together with some very definite parameters that they had to meet as far as investment dollars and number of rooms.
You remember that, the investment dollars on the hotel?
In private investment dollars, or the investment from the city? It was
No,
gonna
investment that the people were gonna pay to build a hotel,
about $6.5 million.
$6.5 million. This one is 1.2.
that's just the building construction. There is site work that's related to that the developer of agricultural village will be responsible for, and we're not asking for any of those fees. to be paid.
I guess the part of the problem is, we put together a specific lane for hotels, motels to try to attract hotel motels.
Right,
We have not done that for restaurants.
right.
So no restaurant that's come in have we ever done anything for. So I go back and I think if we were gonna do that, we would have to do it across the board for any restaurants coming in under certain parameters. Not, we can't start just picking and choosing who we go to.
It's a very dangerous precedent. So.
You know, I could, because of the brewery aspect of it, I could go along with Mr. Gilmore's proposal here. Because that's something that is a different thing that we have to do.
What was Mr. Gilmore, Mr. Gilmore's proposal?
The administration's proposal is that if you were determining that there should be some benefits, you focus on, as Mr. Jackson has indicated, the on-site brewery aspect. That is something we have talked about as an encouraging type of thing. And so therefore, the city would pick up whatever the difference is that would be required for the brewery operation compared to what a regular restaurant would have. So for example, if the normal feed line that be going into a restaurant would be a 1-inch line and meter, and because of the brewery it requires a 3-inch, and the city picks up the difference cost between the 1-inch and the 3-inch. But following up on some of the discussion, as far as the city manager is concerned, I do not believe any of the other fees or any of that type of stuff need to be waived at all. You know, because like you had talked about, I think it sets a very dangerous precedent. The other thing is that you have concentrated for your incentives on 2 areas, both of those areas based on studies that you already have done. The first one is for downtown. If you remember, we talked about that, the need for different type of business restaurants in the downtown, and of course, if this restaurant is gonna, no, they can't. But if they were gonna come downtown, then that might be a different story. The second thing is a study you had done, you may remember, about the situation with our hotels and motels. You know, and that something needs to be done to do a kick-up relative to the quality, to how they provide. Well, it is quality, but we won't officially say quality. But, you know, in other words, to serve whatever the current market is, because a number of our motels are older and not working, you know, and that kind of stuff and everything. And so therefore, that's why you set up this separate incentive program, and you agreed to, for that one, you know, hotel that's coming in. But like I said, that from, you know, my standpoint, that'd be the only thing that I would see that you wind up doing. You know, I want to emphasize that if you did agree to that, that does not necessarily mean that every restaurant or whatever that comes in that has a brewery is going to get a break. Remember, because you also talked about that with hotels. You know, you granted it for that one hotel, you might not grant it again for any others. See what I mean? The other thing is that, at least in this manager's opinion, based on the cost and location, the negotiations and everything, it's highly doubtful that this is going to cancel the project. And when we talk about the development out at the interstates, I think we as a city need to keep a very low profile on that type of stuff and just let the market, run and handle that out there. Because we have, I think, a lot of opportunity for us. There's, don't always remember, but we have two major exits now that don't have that much development, that are prime for it, South Ferry Parkway and North Ferry Parkway. And like Mr. Jackson said, I don't think you want to get into a situation where that's going to be the expectation. And everybody who comes in, because today can be a restaurant, tomorrow it's an office center, the time after that it's an automobile dealership. You see what I mean?
I think we'd be better off if we're going to do this to make some upfront decisions of what we're trying to attract, what we're trying to go after. And then if there's incentives set parameters on to get these incentives, here's what you have.
Similar to what we did with the hotel.
Similar to what we did with the hotel. But reacting to everybody that says they might come in, we're gonna get ourselves in there.
Right.
You know, I think you're right. I'm sitting there thinking, I said, well, we need to be very clear what we put out there. You know what I mean? Because I'm gonna be focused right on it. When I say focus on it, they say, well, then we don't wanna get a name that we're gonna support some and we're not gonna support the other. So we need to be very clear, like you said, Mr. Gilmore, if we're gonna do any kind of thing, let's make sure and be very clear that we know what we're doing, and we don't have to worry about the real current that comes back on us because of what decision that we making. And I'm for what we decide, as long as we are clear about it. And so once we put it down in writing, in paper, then everybody else will know what we're clear about. And I think that'll be better for us in the long run.
Well, I appreciate those comments, but I have to agree with Mr. Gilmore. Perry is right now probably one of the hottest markets in the central Georgia area. There's no question about that. And I'm not so sure that we wouldn't be far better off letting the market dictate on what's going into those locations rather than putting a program together to attract something, because I'm not sure that, I think those are gonna come.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there's a bunch of stuff we specifically want to attract.
Right.
Motels happen to be one.
Yes, exactly. We made a conscious decision.
But you make the conscious decision ahead of anything.
Right.
You don't do it as a reaction.
So the question before us this evening is, given Mr. Gilmore's guidance and the comments I've heard around the table, are you willing on this case to give them the difference between a 1 inch and a 3 inch water line?
I'm comfortable with Gilmore's recommendation.
So am I.
I have no problem with that.
Okay. You have consensus that that's what we will offer him?
Okay.
As his incentive is the difference of whatever the cost would be,
Okay.
then the
I'll
city.
calculate that amount and let him know, and hopefully we'll see something on the, at the planning commission in the next few months.
I wish you luck, because I love to see him out there. And thank you very much for your due diligence on pushing this forward.
If I may, I do want to follow up on Mr. Walker's compliments for Ms. Hart. I mean, not that we're always going to agree with that type of stuff, but that is
what we
we're expecting from that office.
We appreciate it. Again. Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. Item 4 is council member items. Mr. Hunt. Mr. King.
Well, yes, I will, have a phone call today. In Spring Boulevard, off of Creekwood, there's a color right down there. And, the person asked me that, about lighting. And, we need some lighting out in the dark and it look old down there. And so, she wanna know what, if the city is able to put lighting up there, what needs to be done to get some lighting up there.
I will check it. Our usual process, regardless of where it is in the city, is a request comes in, we go take a look at it, see if it complies with your current regulations. If it does, then we say, okay, fine. If it doesn't, then we advise whoever needs to advise it, that they can pay, they have a light put in if they want to.
I appreciate that. Another thing, I need to talk to Mr. Bodie again. I can't believe that buzzard doesn't come back. They been swarmed, I'm telling you. Had one of the neighbors come to me, and said, Mr. King, how they back again, they back again. I said, oh, Lord.
They are every year.
I said, oh, Lord. So I don't know what we can do, but I just want to let Mr. Bodie know and just make a document that the buzzards done came back again.
Visiting the motel while you're.
Yes, sir, yeah. So that's only two things I got, Mr. Mayor.
We'll pass that on.
Okay, thank you.
Final Grace?
The first one, I guess they told both of us, so I don't have anything.
Okay. We will see, we'll get on the buzzard watch here and see if we can send him somewhere else. Mr. Jones?
No buzzards to speak of.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Before we move to Mr. Gilmore, on the department heads and staff items, I have about 3 items that I would like for us to take under consideration. Number 1 is a report out. We did close on Cherokee Pines on Friday. We currently own the 61.355 acres at the price that we agreed upon with Mr. Myers. I have to compliment Mr. Myers' generosity. He was very generous in the purchase price of that acreage, and I think it's going to be a beautiful park to serve that area for a long, long time. And thanks to Mr. Jones' pushing for us to try to find some park acreage out there. I mean, he came forward and said, well, why can't we, see if we can't buy a piece of that or try to work it. And my compliments to this council for their long-term vision that this is going to reward the city of Perry for many, many years to come. And so we look forward to enjoying the amenities that that park will offer out there. So thank you for your support to get that done, and we'll continue to move forward. Mr. Dye, you've got a little bit of acreage out there to work with. So. The second item is, the parade was canceled over the weekend because of the weather, and I understand that. And Chief, I would ask for your help on this. It came out on social media that the parade was going to be on the 15th, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and
that came out from the organizers, as far as I know. That is their request, and one of the items I was going to brief you on this.
Would you want to talk about it now?
Sure.
Because we have a concerned citizen who has called and wanted to talk about it. They had planned a wedding for their daughter for the last year at the Methodist Church at 4 o'clock. They have 300 plus people coming to this wedding, and they built it around the fact that the parade was going to be on one weekend, and now all of a sudden the parade shows up. And so I would offer a compromise that we tell the parade organizers that we can do that at 10 o'clock. Because the reason we do 4 o'clock on the given day that we do it, like the 1st of December, is because the Warner Robins parade starts, and then many times we have people who participate in the Warner Robins parade that's going to participate in the Perry parade. For them to get down here, get set up and all, it's impossible for them to do. But on that day, we're going to be on parade in town. So we could step off at 10 o'clock, we'll be through by lunch, and it wouldn't interfere with other activities. And it's kind of like a first come, first served. Those folks had planned this for a very, very long period of time, and then we decided that, well, we'll have our organizers will have decided that they'll have it on that day at the same time. So Chief, do you think that we could manage that to start it at 10 o'clock rather than at 4 o'clock?
From the police department's point of view, it's no problem. And I assume probably the rest of the city departments that are involved. If that's what y'all want, we'll just advise the organizers that is the time. If they still want to do that, then fine. And the only other thing I would need to know from y'all is the previously approved street closures, is it still good to go? Do we need to do that again? But I don't see a problem from our point of view of doing it. Any issues with Mr. Smith with Public Works?
No, sir.
Council's thoughts and concerns relative to making a recommendation?
I'm fine with that, but I would also, at the same time, put the organizers on notice that they can't just
Agreed.
announce
That
what
they're
they're changing to without what the rock challenge.
I agree with you 100%, and that was one of the topics that I was gonna bring up tonight, if this wedding had not come up. But I agree with you, that those are our streets. They do not know what we've got planned, because we build our approval process around things that are going on that we know about or don't. And I think that they should, adhere to that. But do we have consensus that we're willing to approve the parade under the same route that we had approved previously for the 15th of December, but it'll start at 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Chief?
We'll
if you
take
will
care of
advise them.
notifying them of the change and the process.
What time's the wedding?
4. Get to a long way away from it. The next item that I would like to talk a little bit about is the update on the helipad or airback request for the hospital. I've had a number of discussions today and over the weekend with a number of people. I think we're at sort of a stalemate. Have you, Mr. Wood, would you like to bring us up to date on where you think we are? Don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine, certainly can. After last council meeting or council workshop, Councilman Hunt and I met with a representative of the hospital, I guess they're the hospital board, and the ARIVAC representative. And ARIVAC kind of explained some of the areas that they were asking for or looking for some help on. The hospital board had some questions about some things in the plan that we discussed. They were good with the landscaping. There was some question about some sidewalks, which we told them we didn't require. There were some questions about how the fueling takes place, and we told them we didn't require certain things be done. We were just asking questions about how that's done without interfering with hospital operations. So they were good with those. So it really kind of came down, as I understand it, Mr. Hunt, that ARIVAC was looking at whether or not between us and other entities there was some opportunity for to address the extension of the water line across Morningside Drive and some help on the cost of doing the stormwater management. I think those were the two big concerns. They did have a question about the fire suppression and requirements, fire suppression requirements in the hangar, which the fire marshal had already indicated were not required. So I think those were the two items. We had looked back to see whether or not there were any improvements or modifications that could be made in the stormwater management system. In talking to Chad McMurrian and Burke Murph, they felt that the design that was presented was the simplest and most economical that could be done. Mr. Hunt had brought over some plans from the hospital. They really didn't provide us with any additional information to be able to determine that that the existing pond was adequate for the existing for what's being proposed. But the other thing is that they still would need to have some way of bringing that water to that pond. So that's essentially what they're doing. I responded back to the lady from ARIVAC, and I don't remember her name right offhand, and have not received any comments back from them. We did get an email today from their engineer asking on the status of their plan review, which they submitted, I think, last week or early the week before. So that's the only discussion I've had with them to this point.
Yeah, it's my understanding that they're waiting for our decision as to what we might be able to do. I think that my understanding is that you guys have informed them that the requirements that they have in place today are the requirements as they stand.
Correct.
They're gonna have to have the fire hydrant within so many feet of the fueling facility, and it's gotta come under the road there at Morningside. And the second thing is that they're gonna have to do stormwater management according to the plans that you guys have put out, and that's gonna be a requirement.
That's correct. And we did receive a cost estimate on what it would cost to bore under the road to get that water line over. I don't have that with me, but we do have that for your information.
Okay.
I was told that we brought it over and put the plug in, it's gonna be between $25,000 and $30,000.
I don't know.
And I think that's, if I remember correctly, that's
About
roughly.
26.
I'm talking,
26,000 for the water and sewer.
okay, that's between 25 and 30.
Okay.
Mr. Gilmore, do you have any thoughts or recommendations as to what we might be willing to do or not do?
Why, yes, Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem. Administration's recommendation would be that the council agrees to pay for the boring underneath Morningside to get the water and sewer lines over there. We have done that in the past for projects, so it's not something that jumps out. The administration would not recommend that anything else that they ask for is waived or that we pay for any of that type of stuff. If a fire hydrant has to go in, extension to serve there, where the helicopter comes down, then that's what's required. The stormwater management plan requires X amount, just like any other builder, developer, whatever the case may be. Now, whatever arrangements this group and or the hospital authority can make with the county or any of that type of stuff, that's fine. I mean, that's not really any of our business, but I certainly do not recommend at all that we get into the deal about saying that we are either gonna start paying for our own mandated code requirements, or even worse, we're gonna waive some of those type of things. For example, like Brian talked about the stormwater, pond and everything. Well, number one, it's not quite clear totally whether the pond would be sufficient in the first place. The second thing is, based on when that hospital was built, I doubt whether that pond's sufficient for the hospital itself right now. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to go in and make this change, then someone would have to pick up a huge chunk of change to get, because you're modifying an existing pond, so you'd have to get brought up to standard for everything that the area said. You see what I mean? And just like compounds one after another is a problem. But the extension, from the water and sewer to a parcel line, remember we talked about that before, you have done that in the past and would recommend that you okay that.
Okay, what now, tell me exactly.
I'm recommending the council okays and says the city will pay to extend the water and sewer line underneath Morningside Drive to that parcel.
To the property line, but not the feed line that feeds the fire hydrant. Once it's on their line, it's their cost.
So, water meter, you're going under the road, and when it comes out on this side, wherever you put that plug, water plug, that's as far as we going, right? And the sewer, you bring it over, across the road.
Right.
To the right of way.
Right.
On the road.
Right, and they, just like if you're building a house.
Okay.
Like we do in a subdivision, then you gotta go in and make, your plumber goes in and makes that connection and all that.
But outside of that, if they can negotiate with the county and Chairman Stoniker is willing to participate in putting the piping in, that's between them and the hospital authority and the county.
I understand. But, talk about the pond a little bit. I have never seen that pond, I've been there 5 years, I've never seen it before, never. I don't care how hard it rains, it drains out just like that, which is good.
Right.
But we're not gonna get involved with that, that's between them and the county.
Yeah, I mean, it may be sufficient, I'm just saying, based on when that hospital was built, they have the other additions on and all that type of stuff, and our stormwater requirements we have now, which were not even in effect when that stuff was built. I would not be willing to guarantee that that pond would meet current required.
I don't know what the current requirements are, but I can tell you it never has been full.
But Mr. Wood, you have told them what the requirements are for the stormwater management on that site, have you not?
Yes, they have done what is required for their new impervious area. And like I said, we looked at it and determined that we thought it was the most cost-effective way to do that.
So they've got in hand that this is what's required from the city of Perry to build that site, so they know what the requirement is.
Yes.
We have a recommendation. Do we need to vote on this tomorrow night, Mr. Gilmore?
No, I don't think so. If you concur, because it's a standard type of deal that you do, so if you concur.
Is there concurrence to pay for putting the water and sewer under Morningside Drive and bringing it to the property line of the new helipad?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gilmore, would you, or Mr. Wood, communicate back to them that is what we're willing to do?
Yes, sir.
I would appreciate that. Thank you. I have nothing else. Department head items and staff items. Mr. Gilmore?
No, sir.
Mr. Smith?
No, sir.
Mr. Waters? Anything?
No, sir.
Mr. Dye?
Just one thing, sir. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. We started our first day of registration for the adult basketball program. First time's ever been offered in Perry. We have had a lot of feedback leading up to the day, but me being me, I will do better about it come Friday. So hopefully it'll be a good program and something that we can add to our stuff we're trying to establish for young adults, post-bac kids. So we're excited about it. We will register till Friday.
Thank you. Chief Lynn? I'm
Yes,
sorry,
sir,
I
Mr.
stole
Mayor.
your thunder.
Oh, that's okay. It had to be talked about at some point. Fine. I have one other thing, I guess for council's approval or input, whichever is appropriate. We're at the point where we're receiving newly outfitted vehicles, and we'll be declaring one or two vehicles surplus to our needs. It's come to my attention that South Georgia Technical College, which runs a police academy, from whom we've hired both pre-service candidates and where we've sent trainees to be trained. It's a fine police academy run by the Technical College. They're in need of a vehicle for their driver training program, which is part of the police academy. They put on a 14-week academy as opposed to the standard state 11-week academy. The vehicle that we have that we'll be declaring surplus soon fits their needs, and I was wanting council's input and or approval to proceed with donating that to South Georgia Technical College.
Mr. Gilmore, that fits within our normal processes, I remember, because we donated some to Central Georgia Tech for their force as well.
As long as you all concur, that's what you want.
Council, your thoughts? Okay, Chief, you got concurrence to do that?
Thank you, sir. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Mr. Worthing? Any comments or thoughts, or would you just like to address us?
Sure. Well, I guess some of you have met me, some of you haven't, and I think I'm going to be officially introduced tomorrow at the meeting with Mitchell Worthington. I'm the new Assistant Finance Director for the City of Perry. I come here from the budget team for the City of Roswell. I was up there for 2 years. I worked with the Transportation, Finance, and Environmental Public Works departments mainly. But before that, I actually graduated from Mercer. I spent 10 years almost in Macon and worked for the Middle Georgia Regional Commission. So that's kind of my connection to Central Georgia. And I look forward to working with everybody in the future.
You're right, you will be introduced tomorrow night and to the community, so we're glad to have you with us. Chief, Battalion Chief, anything you from the fire marshal?
I'm good right now, sir, thank you.
Ms. Palmer, anything from communication?
Nothing tonight, sir, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Smith, that you want to?
No, sir.
Any one of the multiple hats you wear?
I'm collecting everything for tomorrow night.
Okay, that's fine. Chief Parker?
Yes, sir. Two things real quick. Most of you, if you came in tonight, we had the new battalion pickup truck sitting outside for your view. Hopefully you saw that. We do thank you for your support in that new vehicle. It'll provide us a lot of good service. And the second thing is just a reminder, there will be a large-scale exercise going on at the Guardian Center tomorrow. Perry Fire, Perry PD, Houseman Healthcare, and a few others, local responders will be involved in that. Probably the first couple hours of the exercise, and then responders from the base will come out, kind of take over the role of the response as it is. It will be a downed aircraft, and then it'll go for until Friday for their part of the exercise. But we will only play the first few hours. But that'll be going on tomorrow. So if you see big columns of smoke tomorrow morning sometime, that'll be what's going on out there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That's all I have.
The parkway's not gonna be closed in.
No, sir. No, sir. Everything will be taking place on the Guardian Center property. You may see, Perry PD, sheriff's deputies, others responding that way. Most everything will probably be non-emergency until they get there, but you'll see a lot of activity in that area. Maybe they'll come out and eat lunch and spend some money in the local economy.
Hope so. Mr. Wood, anything additional tonight?
No, sir.
Ms. King? Ms. Harden, anything additional that you'd like to?
I do have a couple of things.
Okay.
As you all know, our Main Street coordinator, Catherine Etchman, has taken a new position, and so, she didn't post it today, but I think it will be posted tomorrow. Our HR manager, Karen, will be posting, the job opening for our new Main Street coordinator. Tomorrow, we'll probably run it through, our third week of January, since it's not holiday season. And hopefully we've got a good pool of candidates for that, so until then, I'm wearing that hat as well. I feel like Robert. And I'm also glad that we have a new policy in place effective January on board attendance. Because we'll be looking for new board members for several of those committees and trying to get more involvement. And we also have Holiday on Carol coming up on Saturday. I can talk about that tomorrow.
Anything else?
Well, I do have one compliment for Chief Lynn's team. My husband was in a small car wreck on Friday, and he just couldn't say enough about, what's wrong with him, that nobody was hurt, but he just couldn't say enough about how nice and kind and helpful the Perry PD were. And I said it let Chief Lynn know you guys know that.
That's
He was
great.
there,
I'm
he was
glad
very
no one was
complimentary,
hurt.
and he was pretty overwhelmed. It's just how great they were. His brother's a cop too. Got along better with them than his brother.
I'm glad no one was hurt. Mr. Gilmore, is there anything else to come before us before we adjourn?
Yes, just two quick things. Number one, I gave each of you, you have this form. Please fill that out before you leave today. This is part of the public information that goes with our natural gas system, which is a one-page quick criteria. So please complete that.
Will it be graded on the curve?
No. It's not even pass fail, it's just turn something, you know where to go. The other thing, Chief Lynn advised me that, I guess it's the president, declared an official day of mourning on Wednesday. And it's my understanding that with that, all the federal offices and everything are going to be closed, including the base, and I don't know about the post office or any of that type of stuff. So if you get asked or anything, or my recommendation to you all is that the city of Perry will be open for business, the standard time, unless for some reason the bank's closed. You may remember all our holidays, by and large, revolve around when, good or bad, but when the bank's closed, like Columbus Day and that type of stuff. So that'd be my recommendation to you all.
And we'll get feedback because Ms. Warren advised that Centerville has already announced, or the city of Warner Robins has already announced they will be closed. so that's not unusual. We're oftentimes open when they're not, so. And your thoughts about being open or closed on the 5th? Hearing none, I assume that Mr. Gilmore, we will respect your recommendation. If in fact the banks are closed, then the city of Perry will be closed. But if they're open and operational, I agree with you that if our merchants and our businesses are open, we should be here to serve them as well. So. Anything else, Mr. Gilmore? No, sir. Okay. If there is nothing else to come before us, we will stand adjourned till tomorrow night, the council meeting at 5 o'clock.